from living in penthouses and elevators and underground parking to being homeless because of the brain injury. And I didn't know why my life was collapsing. I just thought, I watched it happen to everybody else around me over the years that was successful, and then they're not in the business anymore. And the good thing is I never get into drugs, which a lot of the guys get into heavy drugs because of the pain and all this other stuff. And that's a huge thing. You know, you get into that shit and then you're really in trouble. So I thank God that I never got into any of that stuff. The worst thing I ever did was smoke pot.
Cool. Just chilling right there on the edge of time.
To make it in the business, you got to be lucky, you know, especially now. There's not a lot of places to go. Vince has kind of gobbled up everything. So there's less chance for people probably nowadays to make it to the big time than it was back in my day.
For sure,
know,
for sure.
yeah,
Like you were saying, with
it's
the
a
1,000
whole
people
diff-
showing up.
Yeah, you know, it's just a whole different.
Very different game now. I mean, there's a lot of stuff popping up, but yeah, like
You know, once it turned into entertainment, you know, once it wasn't a sport anymore, you know, but that's how Vince grew it. He's a very smart businessman and, you know, knew that that was the way he'd have to go to get, you know, with the WrestleMania with Cyndi Lauper and Lou Albano and that whole thing, and Muhammad Ali and Liberace. Like, he blasted all the stars in the world on his WrestleMania to turn it into like an event, not just wrestling. And through doing that, I mean,
formulas.
The Rock,
Yeah.
Steve Austin, all these guys, great movie careers, and Miz is doing movies now, and a bunch of the people are, and that's because of how wrestling has evolved. It wasn't that way 30 years ago. You didn't see wrestlers as a superstar and a big box office hit, you know, and so now it's a different world, like everything else. Nothing's the same as it used to be, you know. So I'm just blessed to have been there, done it, you know, and just try to help as many people as I can now and spread the word, do as many of these interviews as I can all over the country. I never turn anything down because there's people everywhere who get to the point like I did. I was homeless and broke from living in penthouses and elevators and underground parking to being homeless because of the brain injury. And I didn't know why my life was collapsing. I just thought, I watched it happen to everybody else around me over the years that was successful, and then they're not in the business anymore. And the good thing is I never get into drugs, which a lot of the guys get into heavy drugs because of the pain and all this other stuff. And that's a huge thing. You know, you get into that shit and then you're really in trouble. So I thank God that I never got into any of that stuff. The worst thing I ever did was smoke pot. I've never even tried cocaine or anything. And I hate needles. So, you know, it's just like, no way, you know. But nowadays, people try to look for a shortcut, or, you know, there's not as many spots, so they're willing to risk themselves to get in those spots. So, but wrestling's great. You know, it's like a family. And now that I'm appearing at different things around the country and seeing people I haven't seen for a long time, you see people you haven't seen for years, and it's like you saw them yesterday. It's the weirdest thing in the wrestling business, how you don't have to see each other all the time. Then you run into somebody. Like, I haven't seen Honky Tonk Man for a while, and I was real close with Wayne for a long time, and he's going to be at the Hall of Fame this year in Rhode Island. So I can't wait to see him. I haven't seen him for probably 8 or 9 years. But you lose touch with people. But I guarantee you, the minute I see him, he'll jump out of his, Paul, what are you doing, Paul? We're going to go to Pizzeria Uno, Paul. Used to love that pizza place up here when they come to Boston. Would go out all the time. So it's fun. You know, you get to share memories. And I never thought I'd be talking about doing this 38 years or having any fame with it. And sometimes, especially now that I'm retired, I kind of push myself away from it, you know, and I'm trying to just be normal and fly under the radar. But then sometimes I'll just look around here and go, oh my God. The people that I worked with on a daily basis are like the history of our business. You know, it's cool as hell. And I'm just glad I kept everything. I always got friendly with photographers all around the country, so I'd get shit sent to me. This was from this show here, and I'd get pictures and I'd save them. I just threw them in a box, and I didn't see a lot of this stuff until 2 years ago. I was going through a box and I found all these wrestling pictures, and I'm like, oh, this would be cool. Call this the Extreme Compound, is what the guys call it, and it's like, well, why not make it like a museum? I mean, it all is. You can, and it's amazing. I've had a lot of interviews in here, and they just look at the photos, and I know him. Oh my God, you worked with him. No, oh, that was you. I recognize you 30 years. It's funny.
Very cool, your history, the chasing the dream, like you said, to be able to do it, the boyhood dream, and then to be able to accomplish those dreams and everything, and
like I said,
live the story.
My childhood dream was to do it once. I did it 28 times plus everywhere else. Plus ran ECW, the original ECW. Plus ran Sheldon's company for 10 years. I never thought that I would end up in that end of the business. But I had a great teacher. Kowalski really taught you everything about the business, how to be in the business, how to present yourself in the business, how to be outside of the business, how to treat people. And that was great. He would pave the road for you, and most people just don't follow. But I just went along. I traveled with him hundreds of hours because I didn't have a license. He would drive like 45 minutes out of his way to come and pick me up.
All right.
To drive me to the shows because I didn't have a license, and then I got so busy traveling I didn't have time to try to get a license till I was like 18. So I was lucky to spend hours and hundreds of hours with Kowalski out to eat and driving around for 4 or 5 hours each way to shows. And I was like a sponge everywhere I went. I just sponged everything in with the Savoldis, with Kowalski, with WWF, with the original ECW. Say what you want about Paul Heyman.
Cool.
Just chilling right there on the edge of time.
Kowalski was nervous because I was so young and so small. He was worried I'd get hurt in the ring, but he trained me. That's why I took all the crazy hits and the flying things I did in the ring, because Kowalski taught me how to wrestle. And a lot of the referees didn't know how to wrestle, and they didn't want to do these crazy things. But he trained me safely, and I learned it right, and for the most part was able to protect myself.
Hello, it's me, Orange Cassidy, and you're listening to
Hello, everybody. This is the one, the only King Ricochet, and you are listening to State of Pro Wrestling.
My name is Brian Pillman Jr., and you are watching the State of Pro Wrestling.
This is Channing Thomas, the Natural, and you're listening to the State of Pro Wrestling.
This is Alec Price, Prize City represent, and you're watching and listening to the State of Pro Wrestling.
Woo!